Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are handling lesson 11 of the receivables module. And Victor, please walk us through.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to this lesson in our financials functional training series. In this session, we are going to talk about receipt classes and receipts methods. Okay, these are concepts we have mentioned before in our previous sessions. We should already have an idea what they are, but now we are going to look at them in detail, and we are going to create our own receipt class and our own receipt method. So like I said, we had talked about receipt method, and we also introduced the concept of receipt class. Receipt method is one of the things you have to enter when you're entering receipts in receivables, okay? And we said that the receipt method determines your bank accounts and your GL accounts, okay? We also said that when you select a receipt method, you're also by default selecting the receipt class to which that receipt method is attached. And we said the receipt class determines the required processing steps for any receipts that will be entered under that receipt class. So it determines whether receipts will undergo confirmation. It determines the receipt method, the remittance method, sorry, if you're going to be using the remittance process. And it also determines how or whether you are going to clear or reconcile those receipts, okay? So we are going to look at how to create receipt class and receipt method in this session. And we are going to see how to enter each of these things, okay? So let's talk about receipt class. When you're creating a receipt class, these are the things that you need to specify. A creation method, okay? A creation method then determines whether those receipts will require confirmation. We are going to see how. And you also select remittance method, okay? We talked about the process of remittance, for example, and we said if you're creating receipts manually or you're entering receipts, the receipts window, using remittance is optional, okay? This is just a process you can use to help you track your receipts, okay? We gave an example of checks. If you're receiving checks and you want to use a remittance, okay, you can track them, for example, as a batch and associate them maybe with a certain deposit number. And for the receipt class, we also said that you sell for the receipt class, when you're creating one, you also select a clearance method. And we are going to see examples of each of these: the creation method, the remittance method, and clearance method when we are creating our own receipt class. So this is the navigation we need to follow if we want to create a receipt class, and we are going to head on over to Oracle and do that. So where's my Mozilla? Let me close these tabs. So I'm going to go to my receivables responsibility, and we said the navigation is setup, then receipts, receipt classes. So this is the window that you use to create a receipt class. You can see the fields that you have here. Now, remember we said that a receipt class can contain one or more receipt methods. Okay, so the relationship here is this is the header block for receipt class, and you can see below it you have um, a receipt method. Okay, so when you create this receipt class, then you come down here and create your receipt methods. But in this session, we're talking about a receipt class. So we want to create a receipt class which is going to determine how the processing steps for our receipts. These processing steps we said are what? Confirmation, okay, remittance, and clearance. Okay, so receipt class determines whether the receipt attached to it will undergo those three processing steps that we've talked about. So first we have to enter a name. We can call this Maskani Developers we are going to call it Maskani Developers Manual. Why? Because we are going to keep our creation method as manual. So we have manual or we talked about manual or automatic receipts, okay? And we said automatic receipts is where we have a predefined agreement with the customer to deduct a certain amount, right, at a particular period. And we gave the example of maybe your insurance or phone bill, okay? But we want to use this receipt class for manual, okay, creation method. We're going to be entering the receipts we are going to be associating with this receipt class or entering under this receipt class. We'll be entering them manually at the receipts window. And therefore, if you try to create this require confirmation button, which is one of the processing steps, then it doesn't let you. But if you do automatic, and which you also see avails this tab down here, but if you select creation method automatic, then you can be able to select require confirmation. So when we were talking about these processing steps in our previous session, we discussed as to why. So we are going to keep creation method as manual. Remittance method, we have this one which is called factoring. Okay, and factoring basically means that you're selling your receipts, okay, to get cash. Maybe if you need cash sooner, you can sell these receipts to a factoring company, and they will give you a certain percentage. All right. So maybe if your receipt is worth $100, they will buy it from you for $80. So instead of waiting for a long period until the customer pays you, you can get that $80 sooner. In our case, we are going to use no remittance method. Okay. Clearance method. We are going to use directly, which means when you enter receipts here, they are going to be assumed to have been cleared. All right. If you're using clearing, then they're going to be clearing accounts, and once you do reconciliation with your bank statements, okay, then that is when your actual cash accounts are debited. When we use this clearance method directly, it is assumed that those receipts have already cleared, even though the money is may not actually be in the account when you're entering those receipts. Okay, so maybe if it's checks and you're entering them and then you go and deposit them, then the checks, the money won't hit your bank account until maybe a couple of days. But however, we assume that the money is in the account when we select this directly clearance method. Then we have this other two, automatic clearing, which is a program you can run in receivables, and by matching, which means you're manually clearing these receipts in cash management, Oracle cash management. So we are going to enter clearance method as directly. Okay. So that should do it for our receipt class. We can save our work. So what does this mean? The receipts that are going to be entered under this class. Of course, when we enter the receipt, what we are going to select is the receipt method. That receipt method is going to be associated with a receipt class. So as far as processing steps are concerned, those receipts are going to undergo those processing steps as per what we have indicated here. So we are going to be entering those receipts manually, won't require confirmation. We won't be using any remittance, okay? And we are going to use clearance method directly, which the receipts when entered are assumed to have already cleared. So again, let me just save that and we can go back to our slides. So we have created our receipt class. Now let's talk about receipt method. And we have said that we associate a receipt method with a receipt class, and that receipt method it determines the remittance bank account, okay, and it also determines the GL accounts. So actually, what happens is you enter bank accounts, okay, and then you enter the GL accounts that are going to be used. So to create a receipt method, this is the navigation, still under receipt classes. Like I said, the relationship was a parent-child between the two blocks. So we're going to create a receipt method, and we're going to associate it with that receipt class, Maskani manual, that we have created. When we go there, we are going to see that there are a couple of accounts that we need to create. All right, we're going to come back to this. So while still at this window, we can create a receipt method. This is under receipt class Maskani developers manual. So the name, you can also call this Maskani developers manual. It's fine. We're not going to be selecting receipt class when we're entering our receipts, so there shouldn't be any confusion. See whether manual can fit here. A printed name is what appears on, let's say, our reports. Okay, so we can make it more user friendly. Let's just say Maskani developers, and of course you can end date this whereby it becomes inactive after the day you enter here. So we have our receipt method. Now we need to go and enter bank accounts. Right, so this is what happens. Okay, so under the receipt method, you enter a bank account. Under that bank account, you enter this GL accounts. Now for this receipt method, you can have multiple bank accounts, and you can have those bank accounts to be for different currencies. You can have those multiple bank accounts, but there has to be one primary bank account for each currency. Of course, if you're using multiple currencies, okay, for your receipts. So we have our receipt method. Let's enter the accounts. This is, of course, operating unit specific. There is operating unit. We only have one bank account that we have created. So this should come up, okay? This is going to be our primary bank account, okay? Now we need to enter these GL accounts for this bank account, and this is where our remittance for receipts entered using this method will be sent. So let's talk about these GL accounts a bit. You can see unapplied receipts, unidentified receipts, on account receipts, unearned discounts, and earned discounts. We know about unapplied receipts, unidentified receipts, and on account. Unapplied receipts are those that are associated with a customer but not applied to a transaction. Unidentified have been entered and not associated with a customer. On account receipts are like a prepayment, okay, that you have received from the customer, which can be applied to transactions later on. What about unearned discounts and earned discounts? So when you are creating invoices or when you create transactions and print out the invoices and send them to the customer, those invoices will have what? Payment terms, right? Remember we talked about payment terms in AP. So you can have a payment term whereby this is due in 30 days, but if you pay within the first 10 days, you get a 2% discount. So those discounts that are part of the payment terms, okay, like that example I've just given, are what are called earned discounts. So if your payment terms was net 30, but 2% discount if you pay within the first 10 days, and the customer pays within the first 10 days, then you are obliged to give them 2% discount on that invoice. So that's an earned discount by the customer. An earned discount are those that are not part of the payment terms. For whatever reason, you might decide to give your customer a discount. I don't know, maybe if goods were damaged or something like that. So the discount that is not part of payment terms. So we have to create all these accounts, right? So I'm going to quickly exit this page. Let me clear this. So we haven't entered anything under our bank accounts because we don't have those GL accounts, but we have created a receipt class and a receipt method. So we can go and quickly add those accounts to those values to our natural account value set. I don't have to go to GL. I can just navigate from receivables. So we already have cash. We already have cash. We need to create all these others, right? So unidentified receipts, unearned discounts, earned discounts, unapplied receipts, and on account receipts. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's start with unidentified receipts. I want to see where we can enter them. We are going to enter them as asset accounts. So I'm going to enter them starting here. $12.10. You can say this is unidentified. Change this to asset. So let's go to unapplied receipts. The other one we need is on account receipts. So I think we are good with so we have unidentified, unapplied, and on account. So let's enter this discount accounts. So these are going to be expense accounts, right? Why? Because you're losing some revenue when you give a customer discount. So we're going to enter them as revenue accounts. So let's scroll down, expense accounts, sorry. And we can enter them here. And enter this as 5410. This is my unearned discount account. So I've created the values. Should be able to create my combinations now. So if I go back to receipt classes, so set up receipts, receipt classes, query my mask. So we have our receipt class, receipt method, bank accounts. So if we enter our details here, so now we should be able to enter these accounts, but let's see whether we'll be able to complete it. So unapplied receipts, unidentified receipts, on account receipts should be 1212. Okay, now let's go to these two unearned discounts. So list of values contains no entries. Why? This field uses what are called activities, okay? And so you have to create receivables activities here. before we can come and select them. So what are activities? It's basically a feature which defaults GL accounts to certain fields in different windows, all right? So here, if we create that activity, we are going to associate it with um, that unearned discount account that we have created. So when we select that activity from this field, that account is going to be defaulted here, okay, by association to that activity. Same for earned discounts. See, so that's another thing we have to do. So again, we can't proceed from here. So we need to clear this record. So let's start with creating activities, and this is the navigation because I want to demonstrate something. So we go to setup, receipts, receivables, activities, setup, receipts, receivables, activities. Please define a party tax profile for the operating unit. So this is the error that you get. You have to define a tax profile for your OU. There is no reason given as to why we have to do this. There is no association between these activities and tax profile, but it's one of those things that you have to do because of what the software looks like. Okay, so we just have to bear with this. Go and create a tax profile for our operating unit, and then we can come and create our activities. So in order to create tax profile, we need to do this. Go to parties, party tax profile, but under a tax manager's responsibility. So we need to assign ourselves this responsibility. And what we are going to do is going to go to Oracle, go to System Admin, Security, User, so I'm going to assign myself that responsibility, the one that comes with the system. If I just put in here tax, this is the one I want, tax managers, that belongs to EB tax application. Okay, so just assign yourself this responsibility. Now I'm going to go to that responsibility. This is the navigation I want to follow. Parties, party tax profiles, parties, and party tax profile. So here's where you create a tax profile. Okay. So we want to create one for our operating unit. So under party type, we want to select operating unit owning tax content. Our operating unit is called Maskani Developers OU. So let's search for that. select your operating unit. We want to create a tax profile because we don't have one created. So select go. Okay. You can see you have this option to create tax profile because we don't have one. So just select create. This is the address that we created for our organization. So we can just apply. It's as simple as that. We don't need to do much here. The party tax profile was successfully created. Okay, so we can leave this page and go back to receivables. Now I'm going to try and create the receivables activities. Remember, that's what we were trying to do. So set up receipts, receivable activities. Let's see whether we are able to go there now. There we are. So this is the window you get for to create receivables activities. They're associated with an OU. This is the OU associated with our responsibility. So it's the only one we have access to. We should give our activity a name. Remember, we want to create two activities, one for unearned discounts and the other one for earned discounts. And we are going to determine that by this type field. So these activities will when you create an activity, you select a type, and they will be available for selection where that type field exists on any particular window. So for example, we want Maskani developers OU, and we have an activity for earned discount. So we can call it Maskani developers earned discount. We can have that as our description. And this is earned discount activity. So we want to keep our GL account source as activity GL account, and the activity GL account is where now we select the combination, and this is for earned discounts. Should be 5400. Let's save this. So we have one for earned discounts. If the activity name, okay, let's just reduce the length of, can just say and. This will appear on fields whereby it's clearly indicated what kind of activities are there, so it shouldn't cause confusion. So we can leave this as and we have the description to help us. So let's try again now. Let's create a new one for unearned, and we can call this Maskani developers unearned. Okay, remember the type should be unearned discount, and select the GL account here. should be 54 10. So we have activities. Now we should be able to go and complete our method. Remember, that's what we are doing all this time. We are doing all this so that we can define the GL accounts for our receipt method. And we need to go back there, set up receipt classes, query up what I created. So now let's go to bank accounts. We have Mascani Developers Manual class, Mascani Developers Manual Receivables Receipt Method, bank accounts. We only have the one bank account to be specific. So now we have everything we need. We have the GL accounts and the activities. Okay. Let's quickly enter these. This is unapplied receipts. Unidentified receipts. On account receipts should be 001212. Unearned discounts. Let's see whether we have something there. See, there is the activity we created. It's the only one under this operating unit. So that's why when I select list of values, it's automatically populated. So now we have our receipt class, we have a receipt method, and our receipt method is associated with this bank account, which in turn is associated with these GL accounts. So we could, for example, create a new bank account here. Okay. So we only have one bank account. If we tried to create the same bank account and our method, we would get an error. This combination of receipt method and account already exists. So if we want to add another account, it has to be a different bank account. Okay. So I'll just clear this. This is the one we want, and we have created, and we can save our work. So in this session, we have created receipt class, we have created a receipt method, we have created, well, we haven't created, we associated our receipt method with bank accounts and GL accounts. So what does this mean? If we go to enter receipts, we'll select the method, and that method we have created. Receipts entered under that method, depending on the accounting being created, will affect those GL accounts that we specified under our receipt method. Remittances will go to that bank account that we have associated with it. Processing steps will be determined by what we selected at our receipt class. So that's the hierarchy that we have. So we're going to end this session there, and from the next session we can start entering receipts using all these features that we have defined and created. So Bob, unless you have something to add, we can end there.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.